using. Okay. So this is practice hack 14.3.4. This is the latest version of the practice hack. And we'll go through a few things. Okay, we'll start with the... we'll load in. Okay. So the first thing that we're going to do is learn how to use the controls. So start and R. Why is that not working? Loads up the main menu. That's how you get into the menu. Okay, so start plus R is going to be your best friend. That's how you basically access everything in the practice hack menu. From here we have our presets. Okay. The first thing that I'm going to get you to go to though, however, is your shortcuts. Okay. The very first thing you do, go to the shortcuts and set these up, because it's going to make your entire practicing and practice sessions way better, and you're going to be just much more efficient at it. Okay. So shortcuts, ignore this. I'm going to recommend that you make your save state and your load state, that's the first two things you're going to set, make them 2-button combos. Okay. I would just suggest using what I use personally. I think it's a great combination. R plus Y. R doesn't do anything in the game. What do you mean, mark or what? Okay, well, I put the marker in there for you. So I would recommend making your save state R plus Y. And I'm going to recommend you make your load state L plus Y. Now, if you have another... if you have another combination that you like to use, by all means, go ahead. Just don't make it X, I think is a bad one, because it opens up the map, so that can be annoying. I would make it A or B, because that B slashes your sword and A dashes. Y is pretty good because the only thing you'll use is something in your menu, and that's usually not a big concern. You might fire an arrow, you might fire a hook shot. These things aren't really disturbing and when you're making save states, and I'll show you how to make save states later. So I would recommend this loadout here. So load the menu. We went over that. That's how you load the menu. Load last preset. Okay, so what this means is when you load a preset here, okay, so let's say I want to practice Armos, for example, okay? Let's say I've finished fighting Armos and I want to practice Armos again, and I want to load the entire room. All I do is I push my load last preset button, which for me is L plus start. I push that together, and it just loads that room. It will just continually load that over and over again. So L and start, okay? So you can see how that's handy. Too many times I watch people practice and they're sitting like this, going through the practice hack, loading the room. They do the boss fight. They're like going into Eastern Palace, they're going all the way down to Armos, and they're loading the room. Please do not do that, right? It's a waste of time. It actually just infuriates me, okay? We have shortcuts for a reason. When I go into people's streams and I see that, that's the first thing I do. You got to stop what you're doing right now, and you got to set up those shortcuts, because you are going to waste hours of your life doing that, okay? And it's not necessary. You just push a button and it loads, okay? Can't stress that enough, okay? You're going to get to see something funny here. So in the shortcuts here, save state, okay? So now this save state button is very important. It's going to allow you to make save states in a room, okay? And the reason that's important is because you don't want to, again, waste even more time setting up an easy part of the fight. So I'll give you an example. Now you're going to, my save states don't work, so you're going to see some funky stuff here. But it will work for you. So like right here, I can make a save state, okay? I can do my boss fight. And then I can just load the save state again, okay? Now this won't look like this for you. I thought I'd just show you this because it's kind of funny. But you can see how I can just continually load this fight over and over and again. And all I'm doing for that is I'm using R and Y. Okay, so every time I push R and Y, it's going to flash and you're going to make a save state. And anytime I push L and Y, it's going to load the preset. Okay, now again, I have a busted SNES and I have to make save states a different way. We're not going to talk about that. But for everyone in here, this will work fine for you, right? I promise you. You will not get any of this janky nonsense, okay? But the idea here is I just wanted to show you how to make the save states. Now, the way to make save states here, okay? What you want to do, okay, is you want to pause, okay? And then you want to unpause and make the save state. Now, this is tricky to get used to at first, but it's very, very important. The reason that we do this, okay, is so that when we push the save state buttons, we don't accidentally fire an arrow or move. And it also gives us some time in between pushing the save state button to get ready for the next practice, okay? So how that works is we're going to unpause and immediately press start and Y, okay? So unpause, start Y, okay? Just like that. Now that might take you a few tries to get used to, but believe me, it'll become second nature. So now every time that I push the LY button to load, you see how my menu is disappearing? So you're seeing this animation every time I load, okay? And then I can just work away at this. Okay, and I can just... Now what this allows us to do is split up practicing, okay? And we'll go into this in a little bit more detail, okay? So let's say I want to do this fight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, reload. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, reload. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, reload. Okay, now we're practicing the timing of these arrows. And I can sit and practice this all day long if I want. I just get to practice this. Now I might practice this bit here. And I'll stop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up here, and I'm doing this, stop. Okay, so you can see how useful that these save states can be. It helps you to break up fights, especially fights where there are phases to the fight. For instance, let's say Viri, where you have phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 in terms of what we want to do with our strats. Cold Stare has about 3 different phases to it. Ganon has about 50,000 phases to it. And so using these save states is pretty good. Now I'll have to reset here to get my SNES back to normal. Okay, so that is the first thing you're going to do. You're going to set up those shortcuts. Once you've got those set up, okay, another one that you can set up if you want is remove sprites, okay? I usually have this set on RX. Now what that does is, as it sounds, if you want to remove the sprites, that's what it does. So there will be no enemies here anymore. This can be quite useful for testing stuff, especially dash lines and things. And sometimes it's just funny, just to run around with no sprites in the game. When you reload, like when you reload anything else, like let's say we reload, I don't know, this room here, the guards will be back, okay? So you have to continually press it to get rid of them. And then when you reload, it goes back to normal. So don't worry, you're not going to break the game or anything by doing this. So that's kind of one of the only other ones that I like to use in the shortcuts. There are some other ones I do use, but I'm not going to talk about it here. I guess fill everything is something you can use in here if you want. Some people have that set to like LX maybe. Now what that will do is it will fill basically everything in your inventory like this. It will give you full shields, full armor, full magic. Like this just gives you every single item in the game. If that's something you want to do, you can put that as a shortcut. I wouldn't suggest it, however, Not something I would definitely suggest. When you reload, it will put you back to normal. This will give you fill everything. So that's kind of another shortcut that you might want to use. The timer stuff, all of that stuff is not stuff that I want really new people using, okay? Alright, so the presets are kind of straightforward. If you want to go practice ball and chain, you practice ball and chain. A goes forward, by the way, so A, forward in the preset menu, and B goes backwards, okay? So B goes back the way and A goes forward. See that? You can just load up any room that you want in the game. I don't really have to go over that in great detail, but that should be pretty self-explanatory. Again, I can't stress enough that once you load a room, once you've practiced the room, if you want to reload the room, L and start, reload the room, okay? Don't be going like this every time. I'll show you how to do the save states and stuff after, once I'm back on my practice hack that I use, okay? Alright, the next one is Y items. This gives you all of the items in the game. So this is your bowl. You can change this to silver. You can change this to blue boomerang, red boomerang. You know, how many bombs do you want? Powder. Do you want the mushroom? Do you want the powder? Fire rod, bombos. This is basically all of these. Bottles, you can have fairy, blue bottle, green bottle, red bottle. You know, that's all of the items. Pretty self-explanatory. Shouldn't have to go into that in too much detail. The equipment, again, this is more like your armor, how many arrows you have, how many heart pieces you have, things like the moon power, the flippers, the boots. You can customize all of this stuff. And the reason that you want to be able to customize this stuff is your loadout is going to be different depending on what route that you do, okay? So you might be someone that gets gold and silvers. Now, I'm not sure if they put that into the configuration or not. But that would be a cool thing. I wonder if we could maybe talk to Can about putting that in there, maybe like a gold and silvers route loadout. Under safeties, configuration, where's safeties? Death reload put yes, by the way. So safeties. Yeah, okay, so there you go. Science cart, yes. Powder, yes. Gold, silvers, bottles. Early bottles, red mail, yes. Okay, so there we go. So if we load up. So in the safeties here, obviously when you start the game and you go to this configuration, make sure the configuration at any percent NMG, this should be the standard. If it's not, make sure it's this. Death reload, yes. We want that to be yes. What that means is when you die, it just instantly reloads the room. If you turn this to no, you have to go through the death animation every time. Waste of time. Don't need to see that. You're going to see that enough when you run this game. So just turn that to yes. And then go into your safeties, and you can choose the safeties you're going to get. Okay, so early bottles, thanks by the way, Neo. And now if we load up, let's say Ganon's Tower, for instance, and we load up Turtle Rock, we now have bottles with 2 fairies in them. We're going to have silver arrows, okay? And we have powder, and we have basically all of the items and the safeties in the game. Okay, so that's kind of a very useful place to know about. Okay. So we did presets, items, equipment, game state. Okay, so game state is something that I don't think you'll use very much, to be honest. It's kind of a more advanced thing for setting specifics in the game. So I really wouldn't worry about this too much. We already talked about removing sprites if you want to do that. Yeah, I just would not worry about this. So just ignore game state. Link state. I'm going to say there's not going to be much in here for beginners either. If you're going to activate Water Walk, I'd rather you go practice activating it, not just activate it in here. Go practice it. You need the practice, so go load up a water box state and go practice it if you want to arm it, is my opinion. So yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about game state, link state. One thing that you might want to do in here is fast walls. Gameplay, so fast walls, so I'll show you what that is. There's 2 sections of the game, maybe there's some more. Mire torches, for example. So the torches room in Mire, it takes, I don't know, it's something like 15 or 17 seconds. Someone can come up, I think 17 sounds about right. That's how long it takes for this room to go. You know, I'll make a save state here. Or actually, never mind. Okay, this here. This is slow walls, okay? You're gonna sit and have loads of these if you speedrun this game, right? We don't need to sit here in the practice hack and have this nonsense going on, right? So what we would turn on is in the game state here. We'll turn on not game state, sorry, links gameplay, fast walls, okay? Now what fast walls will do is make this very, very fast. Boom. We just saved 15 to 17 seconds practicing that room. Okay? Very simple. The next one, I wouldn't touch anything else in here. There's really not much else I want to touch, but yeah, so in these 3 sections, again, game state, like state, gameplay, the only one I would really touch for beginners is gameplay, fast walls. Everything else I would ignore. RNG control, this is where you're going to start finding some stuff that you may want to practice. I'd say this is, again, a bit more intermediate advanced. I like to see beginners practice RNGs separately, because I think it gives you a better understanding of the game rather than trying to learn specific strats for RNG. Now, I'll give you an example of what I mean by this. Okay, so let's say we load up Pokies, okay? So, in Turtle Rock and Pokies 2, okay, there are 16 possible different strats here, and you can lock the RNGs of the Pokies. So the Pokies can go up, left, down, left. And there's 2 Pokies in this room, right? So these Pokies have 16 different ways that they can go in this room, and you can lock all of those RNGs and practice them all individually. It's very, very advanced. I wouldn't recommend anyone do that, okay? And the Pokies 1, there are 4 different RNGs. Again, when starting off, you're not going to be doing advanced strats. I wouldn't worry about locking the RNGs. I would just practice learning how to do the rooms. I actually did a video on how to do this with the fire rod recently. Again, you don't even need to do spin strats here. This is one of those rooms I'll show you, like, this is how an advanced would look. Okay. So that's how, like, an advanced would maybe look for this. And then this is what an easy would look like. Let's go in here. You have a fire rod. Take your time. Take your time. Alright, see how easy that is with a fire rod? Okay, you don't have to be a hero. You don't have to do these crazy spin strats. There are even hybrid strats you can do here, where you come in with a charged sword and you can do like stuff like this. Well, that's what we call God Pokies, and I just messed it up. But yeah, there are strats where you can do like a hybrid version of this, like this. Something like that. So, lots of different ways to do rooms, but the main wanted to show you is like what locking these RNGs is. Again, for beginners, I don't expect you to be locking any of these RNGs. The only ones that you might practice with your mentors is the Ganon warps. So this is the only time I'd say it's useful. But again, if you're beginners, you're going to have the gold sword, you're going to have the silvers. You shouldn't really be practicing RNGs. You should just be practicing how to fight Ganon, how to get 6 hits in. It's not hard to get 6 hits in. You're going to have lots of safeties. I don't really see you guys using this too much until you start learning like the tempered fight. Then once you start learning the tempered fight, then this is going to become useful to you. You guys make that choices with your mentors. You know, but this is what this does. HUD extras, there are quite a few things that you may want to add here, okay? It depends what you want to do. So I guess I should explain what each of these things are, okay? So the very top right number, okay, that is the room time. That's kind of the most important thing. It's really the only thing you kind of need when you're starting off, beginning. Basically, anytime I spend a room, I spent 11 seconds in that last room. That's going to change to 5. I spent 5 seconds and a half seconds in the last. I spent 3.5 seconds. Sorry, 138. I spent 4 seconds. Okay, so really, when you're beginners starting off, that's kind of the only sort of information you might need. The other one that's important to you is the coordinates on the very bottom there. Okay. This will help you learn tricks like Ice Palace Bomb Jump, Hammer Jump, things like that. These are pixels. Again, if you're starting off, you might not even be doing Hammer Jump. You might not be doing Ice Palace Bomb Jump. They're not necessary to learn. People might tell you that it is. It isn't. You can just do a slower Ice Palace. Costs about a minute. But you don't need to do Ice Palace Bomb Jump. You don't need to do Hammer Jump, okay? These are optional tricks that make the game faster. Do not need to learn them if you're not comfortable with them, okay? So starting off, that's really the only two I'm going to explain. The other two I'm not going to go into in detail because it's more advanced timing, but just the top one there. And again, you can customize this how you want. So let's say you just wanted off and then this off as well. If you wanted to clean it up like this. All right, and just have something like this. This would be, if I was teaching as a beginner, this would be all I have in a practice hack for a beginner. I don't need to see menu lag. I don't need to see any of that stuff. If you guys want to see or know what that is, come and talk to me away from this. This is kind of more beginner focused. Just, you know, the people who are already intermediates know all this shit. You know, this is more for the people who are beginning. They just want to know the basics. You just need a room timer and you just need coordinates. Okay, that's the only things that are valuable right now. All of this stuff, ignore it. So really, health display, the input display graphical, and then room time. Again, room time is the only one you really need, and coordinates. And you can have it like this if you really wanted to. So these are all customizable. So if you wanted it to even look maybe a little bit cleaner even, you could have it like this, for example, and then you just have it on the top right. You have your room time and your coordinates. I like a little space between mine, personally. I just think it makes it easier to see for beginners, so I'd probably have it something like this. That's how I'd probably have it set up. Something like that, where there's a little space in between to make it easier for people. These things make a big difference for beginners. Having, like, big spaces in between numbers, because when you're not used to looking at this stuff, when you start off looking at it, it can be quite intimidating. So making it easier for people to see and understand, I think is super important. It can make a big difference. At least that's been my experience from teaching people, especially new people. So yeah, that's HUD extras. No idea what this even is. So not even gonna talk about it. Room Master. I've never used this before, so I don't know what it is. And that's pretty much, I think, about it. We went over shortcuts, reset configuration, we went over, and configuration. Yeah. So that is the practice hack in a nutshell. I'm going to load up the practice hack that I use, which is an older version. The only reason I'm using this version is because I have a goofed up SNES that I've tried to replace and can't find a replacement, so I'm still stuck on this until I find a new one. Is there anyone in the chat? I haven't really seen many questions or anything. We've got a lot of people watching here by the looks of it, so if you're new and you have something you want to ask, like, now is your time to ask.